How do we tackle these screens in our hands? They're dominating our lives. We know they have potential.
It was called what? Social networking, and now it's called social media.
How do we take this thing and help it magnify?
We have to embrace it, but help them use it.
Basically is a reflection of who you are and who you're becoming.
We just want to say, hey, keep the conversation going. It's been so good spending time with you. Thanks for diving in with us. Hey, church family, good to have you. We are here for another midweek meetup and excited about that. Got some friends with me here. Let me give you a lowdown on what we're going to do tonight. This weekend, we had a sermon. Kyle preached on a pretty incredible message on Wreck the Roof. And so one of the things that we want to do, we showed, it was adoption weekend, foster care weekend. And one of the things that we want to do is just kind of echo God's heart for the fatherless. And so we wanted to get a group of people together to talk about God's heart for the fatherless. I've got some good friends here I'm going to introduce in just a second. And we're just going to talk about just different intersection points, where they came in on the journey, where they stepped into God's heart for the fatherless, what that looks like. We're going to take some of your questions, really want to just dig in, because there's so many people that say, man, I want to do something. I want to do something. But the honest is, I don't know what. I'm a little afraid. I'm kind of freaked out. And so we're just going to have a very real conversation. And at the end, probably at the end, after we hear some stories and hear how this happened for you and get to introduce your beautiful kids, here's what we're going to do. Then we'll get practical. At the end, we'll just say, okay, this is how some of you hopped in. But then for you at home, how can you hop in? How can you be a part? How can you support? And so we're pretty excited about it, anxious to see what God does. And to be honest, we're just out here, true story. We literally were praying for you right where you're at, that maybe that God would spark something in your chest, and then you would say maybe for the first time, you know what? I do need to step in. I've always wanted to, but maybe I didn't know how to, and so let's just do this. And so I'm going to start off, and I'm going to go around the room, and Lisa from Orlando, we already see you on there, fantastic. And again, send us questions. And as a matter of fact, if you're watching this back, just want you to know, if you missed the live feature, just want you to know, just leave a comment. We still want to respond. Really want to answer people's questions and be real. And so I'm going to start over here. Why don't you introduce yourself, introduce kids. We got some beautiful pics of your kiddos to put up as well. And so tell us a little bit about just a quick background and story, and we'll just kind of work our way around our room so everybody knows who everybody is.
Travis Adkinson, Shalane Adkinson, and we have been married for 9 years and got involved in the foster care world about 8 months into our marriage, and had a placement about a year, and it's been a roller coaster ever since. And it's been a cool way that God's kind of revealed his heart to our family, created some dependency that we probably, for sure, wouldn't have had. For sure,
I feel like I've been watching.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, and so,
That's good.
yeah, 5 kiddos.
5 kids.
Yeah, you want to run that down?
Yes, 5 kids. We have 3 biological, and then we've adopted our 2 oldest boys. So.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, you're up.
I'm Brittany Reynolds, and we have, my husband Bennett and I have 5 kids. We've been married for 10 years. 5 kids, a 6-year-old that we adopted through private domestic adoption, and then we have 4 littles under the age of 2. We're those crazy people.
I love it.
And they were all 4 foster babies. We've adopted 1. We're adopting 2 more next Tuesday. Life is crazy all the time. It's quite fun.
Love it.
Yeah. I'm Blaine Hamilton. My wife and I have 2 kids. Caleb, who's 5, who's adopted domestically, a matched adoption with his birth mom, and still have an ongoing relationship with her, still know her, in contact with her. And then I have a daughter, Emery, the biological, that's 4. And then I'm on staff here at the church as the director of foster care and adoption ministries. So that's a lot of fun. I get to spend a lot of time with these families, which is a whole lot of fun. So, yeah.
Good, I'm Brian Troyer. Brian Troyer. My wife Callie and I have 1 child, so not quite to the level of the 5 kids. His name's Gideon, and he's from South Korea. We adopted him about a year and a half ago, so we're in the international track of everything, and it was about a 15-month process from start to finish for us.
I love that. Well, one of the things that we want to do is we want to get real fast, and I know that a lot of people, and hopefully we'll get Terry from Covington, Georgia is hopping into, and so we're going to have people in here. So I want you to give me a little bit of the real journey. Give me some of the start. Give me some of the, I can't believe we're going to do this. I guess we're going to do this. Tell me about that first lightning rod moment where you recognized, I think we just got to step in. Don't give me the challenges yet, but just tell me about that lightning rod moment where you said, I know we're supposed to do this. Anybody want to start?
Yeah, we were actually volunteering in the high school ministry here at church, and sitting in one of the sermons you were actually preaching. And you were given the stats about our county and how many kiddos go home at night that don't have a mommy and a daddy. And it was like, and I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, man, this really needs to be over there in big church, where the adults can hear it. And it's like, but here Shalane and I are sitting in the back, and the Holy Spirit just moved in our hearts, and we knew we didn't even have to talk about it afterwards. We were both on the same page, and we had no idea what we were getting into,
We've been married
and that's
about 8 months.
which is the grace, yeah. So, so that's the first lightning bolt for us, probably.
Yeah, that's good. How about you guys?
Yeah. So we jumped in with some friends. We had some friends that were actually decided to become foster parents. They needed some help, and we just became respite parents for them. Fell in love with the little girl that they were fostering at the time, and really just kind of opened up for us. Wow, we didn't know you could kind of like love a kid that quickly and get invested in them so quickly. And so it kind of quickly got on our radar that that we're going to do this. We're going to adopt.
Yeah.
We just figured this is down the road for us. Probably not tomorrow. And then just through some different life story, decided no, it's probably sooner than we thought. And so it was a long, about 1.5 year journey of deciding to start to actually bringing Caleb home, but was a lot of ups and downs in the middle there. But man, that if it wasn't for our friends who kind of did it and we watched them and saw them and saw their example, I think that was for us a big part of it. Was just seeing they could do it, we could do this too.
Yeah, that's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But you guys?
So we dealt with some infertility issues for several years, and so we decided that we were going to initially try to foster with, intentions to adopt if it ended up that way. And after a little bit, I got scared and said, I can't do this. And so we switched gears to private domestic adoption, and I'm so thankful that we did, because we had an open adoption, which kind of started just opening our eyes about loving on birth families, which prepared us. The Lord was just preparing us for, 5 years down the road when we were ready to start fostering again and being able to love on birth families. And so that just kind of, it was scary, but He had it all planned out. So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, the start of our story wasn't really a lightning rod moment. It was more of kind of a planted seed that was just kind of there. My wife and I, on our very first date 8 or 9 years ago, adoption came up, and it was something that had just been like from a young age on both of our hearts, and it just kind of, it was in the back of our minds, kind of the whole relationship as we dated and got engaged and then got married, and we just kind of put feelers out here and there, and we actually had a couple times where we got on track and hit some dead ends, but then Korea happened, and it kind of moved pretty quickly from there.
Yeah, that's good. Well, we've got Rick from West Virginia. Hey, Rick, how you doing? And David from Mexico. Brother, man, that's a little ways away, but glad to have you on. And again, just want to encourage you to ask some questions. Those of you who are watching right now, if there's, and it can get real, you can ask real questions. Because I think one of the things I want to hit with some of you guys is, so I loved what you said. It kind of freaked you out. And for somebody stepping into this, they can start hearing, oh man, adoption, I think I maybe could, but only if it was clean and only if it was like, and so you're stepping in. There's so much to step into. So tell me some of the reasons that were keeping you back. What were some of the things that you kind of had to get over, I guess?
Initially when we started, I was so focused on how I would handle a loss. Having a baby in our home for potentially months or a couple years, and then having it taken away. How would I be able to cope with that? I wanted a baby so badly. Obviously, you can see the theme there. I was making it about myself, and I just wasn't in the same spot spiritually then that I was when we started our foster journey again. And the Lord was just, just working on us. And I'm thankful that I had those doubts, because we switched gears to private domestic adoption, and we got matched with our 6-year-old Harper's birth mom. And we developed a great relationship there. And but again, there was more fear with that, because she wanted an open adoption. And that was scary too, because you just don't know what you're getting into. Are you co-parenting? Is somebody going to kind of try to take
So
my,
just real fast, stop.
all that? I know.
Because if you haven't been into it, no. So explain, what is an open adoption? Because there's a lot of people that go open, closed, partially open. Like, tell me what's that mean? What's that mean?
There aren't very many closed adoptions in the United States anymore. Most of them are open in some capacity. And so typically that means there's some amount of contact between birth parents after an adoption happens. That's typically in a private adoption. Foster care, it can be pretty much, there may not be any contact, because it's not safe for the kids to have any contact with bio mom and dad. But in a lot of private adoptions, there's some amount of contact. A lot of times early on, it's pictures, maybe some email exchanges. It's really loose. I always tell people, like, for the biological mom, they're as scared of you as you kind of are of the relationship too. And so it's just, there's no perfect. Again, it's all because we're in a world that has a whole lot of fallenness and brokenness, right? And that's why these kids need a safe place to go, and that's where we're jumping in. So.
That's good. And we've got Hamilton from Facebook just said, love this. As a family who just adopted a baby boy 3 months ago, they said they just feel so loved and supported by Southeast every step of the way. And I know that's a lot of the people in here. And so give us some of those things. What are some of the things that you guys were initially? Okay, you got this lightning rod, and then you step in.
Yeah.
What?
I don't think we ever really knew what to expect, right? Which I think is the grace element.
Yeah.
We got to live through the whole. Our first placement was a little boy and a little girl, and he came in. The first thing they say is, "We need a mommy and a daddy, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and 2 beds." And I'm like, that's how real life was for these two, right, at 3 and 4.
And the little guys said that.
Yeah,
that's sweet.
And so he's protecting his little sister, and so we had them for a year, and very long story short, got a cool chance to come alongside the dad, but they ended up going back, and we were mommy and daddy to those two, and we had never been mommy and daddy before, right? So this was like all in, and so we walked through that fear that people talk about. And it was, you talk like the dependency that I talked about in the beginning, that's where that was. And so we were on our knees, like, because we had nothing, like we couldn't control it, And so that drove us to a really, really sweet place. It didn't seem like it in the moment. It seemed really, really hard, but God taught us some really cool things. So that was the fear part of it, right? But it created this understanding that I don't do this. This isn't Travis and Shalane, right? By ourselves, we are nothing. And that was the big takeaway for us on that.
Yeah, that's good. One of the things that I think as people get into this, they start hearing, they feel lonely. They feel like, I'm thinking about this. What was the support like around you? So you start telling people, hey, mom, dad, friends, we're going to do this. How did you think that was going to go, and how did it really go? Does that make sense?
I think our family was super excited because we didn't have, I'm an only child, and so my parents were thrilled. We were like, hey, this is great. We're gonna have grandkids. This is awesome. And so, they were super thrilled, but I think we had to be, very cautious even through the journey of some of the ups and downs, and just knowing like, some of that we had to kind of just keep to ourselves, and that, couldn't always share that. And that's where, knowing some other families that had adopted, going through some of the process we did kind of alongside other families, and kind of getting to know them, becoming friends with them, and saying, hey, this is where we are. Like, we got to introduce this birth mom. We think she's going to pick us. And then she didn't. And it was like that grief moment. You really just have to be real and honest. It's the same thing of kids leaving and going home. You've really got to just be able to put that grief out there and have some people around you who are ready to kind of take that and go, yep, it stinks. Like, there's no other, there's no good way to say, I'm sure that was great.
Yeah.
It wasn't, so.
Yeah. How did it go for you all?
All of our family was super supportive, but there was also some fear there. You know, they were protecting us, and they knew, I mean, especially with foster care and adoption both, there's so many unknowns, and you just have to be so vulnerable, and it's hard because you never know what's going to happen. So our family was very protective of us, and especially, you know, the ups and downs of foster care. You know, with our little guy leaving and stuff, we learned really quickly. All of our family, each person grieves differently, and you know, and in different ways, and so that was kind of hard to navigate. But in the end, everybody's been so supportive, and so everybody's been super excited and supportive, and I mean, they love all of them, and they're spoiled rotten.
How about you guys?
I would say
A mixture.
a mixture.
Yeah.
The first go around, I feel like everybody was really excited. There was some like, "Are you sure? You guys haven't been married a year.
You guys are
What
kinda
you
crazy."
doing?" And then, and they were all really there for us too when they went back. I think when we stepped back into it 9 months later, after we kind of grieved a little bit and we got our boys, the second journey was a lot harder. We didn't have the same families living life with us, and we dealt with a lot of issues that our kids were just hard. And so it was hard. And the support was different, and not on purpose. I think those people still loved us. It just wasn't at the forefront of their minds anymore.
They saw what happened to us, and they were protective. You know, like family is supposed to be. But it was about us and them and our family, and not the, you know, so.
Yeah, it's interesting. Granting, it just came in, Granting Sunlight on YouTube just said, is asking, you know, is there a support network for families? And I know that we have that, and we'll give you some information on that. But you know, were you surprised by how community shifted for you once you stepped into this? Tell me a little bit about that. How did some of your support network and some of your friendships, how did they morph over time from when you started to where they are now? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think for us, that was one of the coolest things about the whole process. And the international adoption community is unique because every country has a different process. Excuse me. And the stories are so different, but there's enough similarity that we're all in this boat together. And a lot of the friendships, especially for my wife, I mean, she became best friends with people that she's only known for 2 years now because of how deep the roots go so quickly. And we got that from family and friends and anyone that has ever adopted before, that there's just an element of, oh, me too. Like I know,
Yeah, I always say, like, when we do an event and we have a bunch of foster and adoptive families in a room together, you kind of start at mile marker 7. Like, I don't have to explain a whole lot of terms to you. Like, even right, the open adoption, like this. And it's not bad to explain it, but sometimes I think for families, like, they just want to be in a room where, like, I can just say things and explain my kids and everybody gets it. And I think those rooms are just so powerful for people to feel like, oh, you all get it. Like, I didn't have to. You just get like what we're going through, and we've been in a lot of those. Man, so many of our friends. Our son is actually born 2 weeks apart from another friend who adopted from the same agency. Cool. They still live in Texas where we were before. Man, we're still so close to them and connected to them, and it was always cool to just watch our boys grow side by side. And different moms, different experiences, but you know, you kind of jump in and go, yeah, we get it. We know where you're at. It's really, really just amazing.
Yeah. We have Brittany, and this is the questions are coming in the right time. So Brittany from Facebook, thanks for asking your question. What's your advice? And I'll let several of you answer. What's your advice for families that already have multiple kids? What, you know, so some of you, you know, you've already had kids. Yeah, as a person with 5 kids.
You know, I think never in a million years did I think we were going to have 5 kids. You know, our hands were full with 1, and then the Lord just, you know, had other plans, and it is crazy, but it is so much fun and filled with so much joy. And you know, yes, having several kids isn't for everyone, and you kind of know what you feel like you can and can't handle, and you know, literally each kiddo that we got a call for, we went straight to prayer. And you know, it's it's just different with fostering. You know, you get a call and you have to make a decision, you know, quickly. And so you just do the best you can and show yourself as much grace as you can. You just got to show yourself grace. You're not going to get it all right. You're going to fail daily, multiple times a day at that. Just show yourself some grace.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I think that there's definite fear there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because you hear all these, oh, well, you're going to mess the birth order up, or you're going to, like, all the different things that people analyze.
Right.
And there's
Yeah.
legitimacy, there's, like, legitimate fear there. And I think for us, it's been a cool way. We try to do family night, and it's a broken routine, right? But it's our goal.
Yes.
But it's been a neat way to see our blended family of 5 kids come together, and it's a cool way to teach them about Jesus. You know, and so I think that's just a cool.
I think too, it's a lot of, it has to be a family decision, right? If you've already got kids in your home, if they're at a place where you can have that conversation, you need to have that conversation. Like when mom and dad decide to adopt and go do all the training and then come home and say, hey, we're going to get a new kid in our home next week, like that does not go well for the kids in the home. So, you know, having that conversation with those kids and really talking,
Praying
hey, this
about
is
it.
what we want to do. We want to pray together. We want to talk about this as a family. But I will say, I mean, there's a ton of research out there that families that foster and adopt, that the other bio kids in the home, the amount of empathy, the amount of abilities that they grow, the social awareness that they have is just through the roof. I mean, my daughter and our son, I mean, it's just their empathy towards each other because that's what our home is about. Like we know we're all broken, and we're teaching that to them every day.
And it's interesting knowing so many of you the way that I do, just being honest, and you know, we have a lot of friends in our world that adopt and that foster and open homes, and people say all the time, and this is true, you know, can we? And I'm just gonna be honest, as an outlier that's championing and praying and you know, trying to show up the way that we can, the amount of grace and love that enters into your all's homes, and the gift of not having to have a perfect family. You know what I'm saying? Because some people, you know, that they're trying to raise perfect kids and they're trying to have this perfect, and there's this beauty to what happens when the bubble pops and your home just gets to be a home of grace. And when your home just gets to be a dependent home, that sometimes the very thing that you fear might end up leading you into the kind of thing that you and your wife and your family actually need. And it can be a pretty beautiful thing. And so I don't know if anybody's had experience, but I just going to ask a question. Catherine's on Facebook, and she said, do you see many single parent adoptions? That's a great question. Is that one that you guys have run into?
There's definitely quite a few. We have a lot here, a lot of those moms here at the church, especially single moms that have ended up adopting. And
I know
really
a couple of single dads as well.
Single dads as well, And one of the single dads I know in our ministry, he does primarily teens. He's awesome at it. It's so cool. He's a great guy. Several moms that we've seen do it. There are different agencies that have different rules on that. So it's just, if you find one that doesn't, then check into some others. But in Kentucky and Indiana, you definitely can as a single parent foster. And then agency to agency, there are rules. When you look at international adoption, there are rules by country. And so that's where it kind of gets a little bit less common. But we have a lot of them. And that's where the network, the community becomes really important, because you need people to lean on. You need that support. This
quote, Atiqua on Facebook commented, and Atiqua loved this, and wish I could hear your whole story, but it just says, I was in the system as a child, and I bounced around from home to home, and I just want you to know this is a great talk. And so, Atiqua, we just want to say, awesome that you're doing well, and pray blessings over your life, but that's kind of the thing, right? That's one of the things that we want to do. We want to step in and make sure that doesn't happen. You know, that somehow we really grab a hold of these kids, and even when it's difficult, step in the right way and step in a permanent way. And so, what do you, any advice for Antigua there?
I mean, I think it is. I think it's, you know, for those kids, that's where I love what we're doing. I love being able to push more families in that direction, because it is what kids need, is stability and permanency, right? They want to be connected. They want to be in family. I think, you know, Psalm 68, God sets the lonely in families. Like that's what God's desire, God's heart is to say he wants us in families. He wants us in community. He made us for that. And that's the best that we can have. And it is hard. And I think there's still opportunity, though, even when you're in that situation and you're an adult. It's knowing that, recognizing that about yourself, that, man, I've got some hurts in my past that I might need to go deal with, because it might be affecting my relationships now. might be affecting my trust in others and some of those kind of things. It's where it can be great when a family does step in, but when they don't, it's one of those things you have to recognize and know, do I need to work on this? Is this something I need to be aware of, that experience has created some hurts?
That's good. One of the things, so I want to get a moment in your mind and just share with us. I'm just looking for a sweet parenting moment. And so one of my favorite passages is when it says, talking about Jesus, says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame. And it was like he always knew, he carried something inside of him that knew what I'm about to face is hard, but I believe in what's on the other side so deeply that whatever the cost is, it's worth it. And I think that there's an element of that, right? There's an element of this. I know that stepping into this, easy is not the word is that the word anybody would use here? Nobody's going to use the word easy in this. But it is that concept of, but for the joy set before him, to know that there's one of his sweet, precious little ones that's going to land in a home and be loved and prayed for. And even though we're not perfect, is going to be a part of this, the beauty in that and the joy in that. So what I want to do is give me, if you can, best you can, one of those moments where you got to see the joy piece. Maybe it's a special moment with your kid where you just said, it has been hard, but that's why we did it.
We had one just the other night. Our 9-year-old, who will be 10 tomorrow, Jordan, our oldest that we adopted, and he has a memory, so he remembers everything, and he was 3 when he was removed. And so just to preface this, we don't bring salvation to these children, right? We were reminded of that by a high schooler, right, when we lost our first 2. But he asked if he could talk to us, and we're sitting at the island in the kitchen, and he's asking about being baptized and having that conversation with us. And I was like, and I asked him a couple questions, and he's like, well, he's very studious. And he said, there's still a couple of the smaller books of the Bible that I really want to dive into and figure out before I make that decision. And I'm just like, yeah, we can do that, buddy. And I was just like, thank you for that spirit, Lord. That is such a cool thing to get to experience as a dad, of a little boy that we prayed for and screwed up royally with. And, it's like, thank you that he can see past my screw ups and still see the grace of Jesus.
That's good. Who else?
For us,
For
us, the joy really comes, Gideon just exudes it. It's so fun to see him in public because people just stare and just smile. The smiles just coming out. Yeah. And that's been the case since before we brought him home. We'd see videos of him, and it was just you can't help but feel something just looking at him. So it's just the daily constant reminder going up to his room, and he's awake, and just the beamy face, just every single morning, the joy just sneaks in.
If you're having a bad day, I just go look at your Facebook page, and that's my day every day. It's seriously, it's wild. So it's very true.
Mamas, what we got?
Well,
give us a tender moment.
Harper, our 6-year-old, she's at that age, when she started kindergarten last year, where, friends start noticing that she doesn't look like her mom and dad, and she doesn't look like her siblings. And I remember one night we were all reading a book, and one of her little brothers was sitting next to her, and she said, Mama, me and Bubba look alike. I go, you do? How? And she said, we both have love in our eyes. And I was like, yes, baby, yes, you do. Yes, and I'm like, okay, thank you. You just need those little,
That's pretty good.
So,
Wow, that's,
it was a powerful
write that
moment.
down somewhere.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did.
wow.
Yeah.
All right, Mama, what do you got?
I would say ours have been, or this one for me, was last week. I went and was able to do Halloween parties for the 3 kids that are in school. And our younger of the 2 boys, he has struggled, attachment-wise and all of that. And it took him 5 minutes to even look at me in the face whenever I got to school and I'm sitting beside him trying to do this. But by the end of it, I needed to go hop to the other party, and he just looked at me and said, can we do one more fun thing together? And I was like, that for him is huge, and especially with me, because it's been the hurdle with me since day one, and for him to want that time with me was very special.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, we had one just the other night. I think it was last week. We were putting Caleb to bed, my son, and Kelly was giving him a hug and putting him to bed, and he said, "Mommy, you're the best mommy in the whole world." And so Kelly just smiled and gave him a big hug, and he saw the response, and so I came to give him, "Daddy, you're the best daddy in the whole world." And like he knew, he was like,
He's
"Oh, they
milking it,
like
baby.
this.
He's
I
milking
could
it.
say this
He's
more."
milking it, yeah.
But it was that sense of like that like unanticipated, right? He initiated that himself, and that was a big. That's in those attachment things, like that's a big thing when when the kid initiates that desire and that wanting, that longing for you, like that's a big sign. It's a big win. It was cool. Yeah, it's cool for us.
Well, let's do this. We're going to turn the corner. We're gonna kind of land the plane because here's what I know. A couple things, and I think you would all say this. That's why we brought you in here too. Is I can't imagine. Like for me, it doesn't compare. But for me, I remember when we had 4 kids and we got our surprise, Luke, who's number 5, and I remember us thinking, what are we going to do with one more kid right now? But now he's just the radiant joy of our home, and we just go, what in the world? We were missing out. And I know from knowing you all, you would say, man, this has been hard, but can you even imagine our lives without these gifts from the Lord? And so here's what I want to do. I want to turn the corner. Give us 1 to 2 things from your perspective that people can do to help out. Maybe it's through being a friend. Maybe it's being more supportive of people. Maybe it's open up your home and you just want to challenge. But give me a couple things that we can do that would, from your perspective, it's going to be a little bit different. Some of them are going to be a little more organized. Some of them are going to be a little bit more heart-led. Whatever you got's good, and we'll land the plane. What are some ways that somebody watching today can say, man, because what I love about your story was one of your friends, you get supportive, you start helping them, and then all of a sudden the first step was you stepping in their lives and get closer. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they go, wait, maybe I think we can do this. Yeah. This isn't crazy town. This could be incredible. Yeah. And so the first step isn't always the same, you know what I'm saying? And so give me some first steps that would be real helpful for anybody watching today.
Yeah. Man, there's so many things. I think again, for a lot of, especially those foster families, in some states there are different rules, different places. You can babysit a lot of times, no requirements required. Yeah. But for a lot of them, if you're going to keep kids overnight, you got to go do a little extra training. You got to get what's called respite approved. That's a little extra step for you, but man, it's powerful for those families. Yeah. So helpful, so supportive. That's what we did first. To kind of get connected, get involved. And I always think it's great if it's just, if we knew the Reynolds and we just jumped in with them. Because then the kids are coming to our house and we know them and they see us on Sunday and we go to barbecues together and the kids know who we are. And so that's natural, that's normal to do that, to get involved in that way. So I think that's a big thing. I think, honestly, like for some, if you're doing foster care, there's not a lot of expense to it. But if you're doing international adoption, you're doing domestic adoption, there can be some costs. And so sometimes it's just saying, you know what, we're going to say that we're caring for widows and orphans just by our paycheck. And we're gonna put a check in somebody's hand, bless them, encourage them, help them. I know I've talked to Brian about his story and the number of people it took to get us to the amount we needed was a lot. And I thank every single one of them because Caleb's where he is today because of that gift. It's a great way to serve.
Pretty good. What you guys got?
I would say, off the top of my head, the biggest thing that has one of the biggest things that's meant the most to us is like an unsolicited date night. Yes. Really, and it's people being observant and paying attention and saying, I see that you're struggling, because I'm at work and she's literally holding this together. She's the glue. And so I remember Brian and Janie Cheek. They said, hey, y'all, we're on our way. Y'all go on a date night. And we were like, yeah, we needed that, and it meant the world. And we've had some people go downtown and go through that process. And we're like, really? You're going to do that for us? And it does. It means the world. Because you don't want to ask people. For some reason, there's something in you that just doesn't want to burden others, and you feel, and it's a big deal when people volunteer for that. It's cool.
It's good.
I was going to say, people are always like, what can we do? What can we do? And I know, especially for mamas, it's hard for us to ask for help. We just kind of sometimes feel like we just have to do it all. And so I know people people just would drop, a meal off at our house and we didn't ask for it. It was just so unexpected, and but it just, especially when you get a new placement and you're not sleeping at all anyways, or Kelly dropped off diapers, which was amazing when we can always use diapers. Yes, but like just something that is small, but just, or even just a little handwritten note saying, we see you, we're praying for you. We are here if you need anything. Like just knowing that you have those prayers really means a lot, because sometimes you feel like you get, the community is so great, but it's also, it can also be lonely at times as well.
Yeah. That's good.
If you notice, we're not picky, right? Any kind of contact.
That's a good word.
And the neat thing about that is the whole foster and adoption world can be really scary and intimidating when it's a big question mark and you're just not familiar with it, because there's all this jargon and all this like just procedures, and you don't know what it is. So plug into the people that are already plugged in, because one, they need the help, right? Or they wouldn't turn it down at least. But two, like, to your point, like once you're exposed to it, it's, we might be able to do this.
Yeah.
This isn't as scary as I thought it was. Yeah, and I think the loneliness too comes with a lot of us, especially in the church world, have signed up for this because we felt called to it.
Yeah.
And so sometimes in that calling, we kind of feel like, well, we should kind of suffer through because Jesus called us to this, and we shouldn't really ask for anything because maybe this is our burden to bear. And it's like, no, we're bearing each other's burdens, right? And so sometimes it's that initiation. I think what Travis and Shalane said, somebody that's saying it, that's coming and showing up without us having to ask, is just overwhelmingly.
That's good. Well, let me say this, guys. Thanks so much, and ladies, so much for sharing, and thank you for hopping on. And let me just say this. I want to be as clear as possible. Maybe you're on right now, and you're recognizing that you're not on by accident. As a matter of fact, you know that there's something inside of you that's saying, "I know I've got to do something." We would encourage you. You would be joining a whole long list of people. Just a whole long list of people that have said, I've got to do something. And so they just step in. They step into a relationship. They step into just being more aware and all of a sudden, and then just transparently just being more open. Just saying, God, we're open to whatever it is that you want, Lord. And we know that if you're going to lead us, you're going to take care of us, you're going to provide for us, you're going to meet us where we are. And so if there's something we can do for you, hope that we'd love to. We've got, Blaine and a whole bunch of people here that would love to help you. Reach out to us. If you need support in your community and you just feel like you need some people, let us know what's going on. We'd love to support you. We'd love to encourage you. I want to encourage you, some of you out there, you're like, I'd write a check, I don't know who to give it to. Let us know. We'll get you connected with some families that need that help, that need that support. If you're like, man, I don't even know who to give a date night to, then we want to help you. But we don't want to miss this opportunity to say to you, it is our responsibility, if you're watching this as the church, to respond with the Father's heart to something that He really cares about, y'all. And so this is our opportunity, and so thankful for your example. And so thankful for who knows what God's going to do in your life. So God bless. Thanks for tuning in. And again, if there's anything we can do to get you connected or to answer more questions, even if the live event's over, write down some comments. We'd love to respond to you. We just want to see you step into that thing God made you for. Take care.